All right. Next, Deno.
I don't have any questions for the developer. I'll
Okay.
have
You
comments
have some comments?
as we
You want to make
debate
your comments now, or
if there's no more questions for the
right.
developer, and we're going to move into that
do you have
segment.
questions for the developer, Bob? Okay, go ahead and make your comments, Deno.
Okay. So you can, I
Yeah,
don't
you
have
can
any
have a seat,
questions.
please, sir. Thank you very much.
So I've watched this process unfold, and quite honestly, I came into the meeting very split about this. And I'll tell you why. I've received hundreds of emails and Facebook messages and phone calls, and I want to address some of the objections about this development. And I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with them. I just want to address some of them. Some of the advocacy against this building that I've received is the size and the density of the building on Oak Park Avenue. You know, it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more modern, doesn't quite look like the old Oak Park. I've had people concerned about that it's targeting people who are earning $16 to $17 an hour and putting all of them in one building. I've had people concerned about, that they think crime will go up in that neighborhood. I've had some people concerned that their property values are going to go down. And there's also been people who believe that we're going to have a panhandling problem on Oak Park Avenue because of this. Now, again, I'm not advocating that. I'm just stating what some of the concerns are. On the support side, I've also received lots of emails in support of this, and quite honestly, many more emails in support of this project than against it. And I just want to tell a little story, and just like my colleague here, a little bit about me. I work with a small number of ex-offenders, people who've been to prison. Quite honestly, maybe one of the most marginalized groups in our country. And not only can they not get jobs, they can't get housing, they pretty much can't get anything. And I had an employee who was in prison twice, worked for us for 3 years, never went back. After 5 years in my role at the Rescue Foundation, we have a 0% criminal recidivism rate. And one of the key components of that is safe, affordable housing near work. When we opened up the restaurant, I owned Felony Frank's. Unfortunately, it's now closed. The average commute time of an ex-offender coming to our restaurant to work was an hour on public transportation. And I was invited to a couple of their homes for dinner. I got to become very close with some of my colleagues there. And the living conditions that they could afford were deplorable and inhumane. And the way that people let them live in buildings that were owned by educated, wealthy people made me sick. So to put a building like this in Oak Park makes me proud. I like to see this. But I also want the people who are against this building to know, I hear you. I understand. And my biggest concerns are not for the neighborhood. I don't think that property values are going to go down. I know that crime is not going to go up, because when people have good, affordable, housing, even if they are an ex-offender, the recidivism rate goes to 0 when they can actually make a living and earn money. Nobody wakes up in the morning wanting to be a criminal. I don't think that there's going to be adverse effects in that neighborhood, and I don't think we're going to have panhandlers. My biggest concern for this neighborhood is that these people moving in are not going to be welcomed by their neighbors. It's my biggest concern. And I think that we need to acknowledge that when a building like this goes in, that we're up against a challenge of marginalization, segregation, and also the stigmatization of people who earn $16 to $17 an hour. And what I want to do is let my constituents know, especially in that neighborhood, I hear you. I understand your concerns. I just don't share them. And because I have a lot of experience working with people who are earning in this level. And I hope that residents in that neighborhood, despite their objections, even residents all throughout Oak Park, despite their objections, would make a concerted effort to make sure that these neighbors, should this development get approved, be welcomed in our community and not be marginalized. Because the number one thing that ex-offenders tell me when they move in somewhere, the number one challenge they face other than work and a place to live is belonging to something. And this is a great project. I mean, it's a beautiful building. Some people may not like the design. I happen to love it. And I just want to make sure that when we put this in our neighborhood, that we are taking all the appropriate steps to make sure that these new residents, these new Oak Parkers, who, by the way, make no more or less claim to Oak Park as I do as a 47-year resident. A resident is a resident. And I want to make sure that we're going above and beyond to make sure that these residents feel like Oak Parkers. So this building absolutely has my support despite some of the challenges that we're going to face, because I know that we can overcome them. And I know that we can work together and make sure that none of the problems that were associated with a building like this in the past may come to light. And I know that the Community Builders is a first-class, a world-class organization, and if they didn't have the experience and the expertise and the knowledge to do this building the right way, I would probably think differently about it. But they do have the expertise, and they do have my support.
Thank you. Anybody else has any comments? Yes.